operating the computer, getting the information, and, so even with computers, you cannot process that many permits and approvals for people with one or two people in an office for a state like Illinois.
No. Especially, and now then with, pandemic and election, that's when everyone just starts buying stuff.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I mean,
Toilet paper and, what are they called, MR-15s?
Those prepackaged
Oh.
meals?
No,
Yeah.
no, the guns.
AR-15s.
Oh wait, what are those guns called?
AR-15s.
What are those?
What?
What are those guns called? Are those meals?
MREs?
MREs.
That's what you're
thinking
MREs.
of.
Yeah. Well, he was talking about people buying things in a panic. I'm thinking that pre-cooked.
Well, he was talking about people buying guns because of this. There's been I don't know what the increase is.
Record.
300% increase in the amount of people that are buying guns across the country.
People that swore they
So-
never buy guns.
Oh, yeah.
That's
are
why I
buying
say
guns.
toilet paper and guns.
I mean,
Essentials, ass tissue, and guns.
I know of at least 3 people that never had a gun that bought one just recently, so that's everyone who thinks that they've been missing out is trying to get. I mean, you can't even find ammo right now.
No.
I tried.
Oh, and what we were talking about really before he flipped the switch here, about the length of time it's taken them to get our FOID cards back, and like I said, mine is just an address change. It's still,
Yeah.
still, it hasn't expired yet, and it's just the address, but thinking in those terms of how many more people are buying guns, so this office of what I think was 2 people, doing the FOID cards,
Yeah.
is now trying to do this for probably hundreds of thousands of people across the state of Illinois, getting approval for FOID cards, because they're out there trying to buy guns.
Yeah, well, I think that's a huge problem. Just most states are with the system, period, is that it's just kind of built, it's not set up right. I don't know what, the answer is, but, I mean, you see how many issues there are with anything that, is state-run, that you try and, process something, and it's like a nightmare trying to get
Mhm.
something done,
But sure, let's make our health insurance that way too.
and unfortunately, yeah.
That's a topic for another day, but
Although
Right,
sometimes I think
but-
with the gun stuff, I think some of it's on purpose, how can we make it, as difficult as, possible for you to go through all the steps just to,
Right.
exercise your right, and,
The states, they can't take away your right to own a gun, although there are areas where they have done that, and the legalities of that, I don't know, like the city of Chicago where you're not allowed to own a gun. But I forget what the hell I was gonna say.
well, I don't know exactly what to say, but if we're
oh,
kinda
mid-sentence.
talking about how, maybe they can't necessarily eliminate it completely, but they try to do any little thing to kind of,
Right,
so they can't
that-
completely legislate it out, but they make you jump through hoops.
Right, that was
right?
that was gonna be my point. They can't necessarily take away your right to own the gun, but they can legislate what it's going to take for you to legally own that gun. And so, yeah, like you said, a lot of states are issuing different things one way or the other in order to inhibit those sales of guns.
My take, there's obviously, I think we're all in agreement, there's people that do not like the fact that you can own guns in the United States of America. We think it's ridiculous, but there's a lot of people that think that way. People that were born and bred in the United States think that, and they want your guns gone. But they know
those liberal cocksuckers.
he's gonna throw that in every episode.
That's what
That's every episode. He sneaks it in there, kind of like you see. Every single episode of Seinfeld, you can find the Superman logo if you pay attention, and Matt sneaks that in there. Every single one. But there's clearly a lot of people that want to eliminate the Second Amendment. They don't want you to be able to have guns. So they know that they can't just come and knock on your door and just take your guns and that you're just willfully going to hand them over, because that's never going to happen. You're going to have a shootout in the streets. But what they are doing is they're shaming guns. That's what I say, on kids.
For
You know how many kids, younger than us, I guess, teenagers, little kids, early 20s, are disgusted by the thought of guns?
Well, yeah.
They're disgusted by it. You can be the most responsible gun owner in the world, and they think, that's you own guns? That is
It's
disgusting.
dangerous.
Yeah.
It's frightening.
So they're shaming entire generations that once they become of age will have zero interest in ever buying a gun.
I mean, think about it. It's now we're seeing certain
That's what I-
issues with like the online, the e-learning. Like, God forbid if like somehow like in the background there's a Trump flag, or maybe there's an NRA sticker or hat, or or a Remington or Glock sign or something, and it's the end of the world. And to me, it's crazy because I look at, this country is founded on guns. Like, this country's founded on shooting people in the face because, they're trying to take your rights away without, to me, the Second Amendment is the most important besides, right along with free speech. But you can't have free speech when you don't have a way to defend it. And, it's what you're kind of getting at is like, it's like a slow chipping away. So it's not like an outright, hey, we're coming, we're taking all your shit. You can't have
They're
it.
not coming
It's
and
just-
knocking on
It's
your
a real
door.
slow,
Right.
like, oh, we just need some,
Generation.
and it's always under the thing of, it's
Public
just
safety.
a common sense thing. Or
Public safety.
if it just saved one person's life, and I think we all know, like, there's some obvious stuff. We don't want people who are bad to have guns, but a lot of the stuff that, they label as common sense stuff is, ways to keep us law-abiding people from getting it. Why should a single, mother have to wait 3 days, in Illinois before she can get her firearm to protect herself? Or maybe she's being abused or stalked and she has to wait 72 hours before she can defend herself if she didn't already have a gun. Like, certain things like that are, like, it makes no sense to me, but
I
and
do.
it's under the premise of,
Are you talking about the gun hold? when
well,
you
yeah.
make a
So
purchase?
in Illinois, if I purchase a gun today, I have to wait 3 days to get it.
I
And
think that there's actually a little bit of sense to it. I think what the legislation was trying to do was to stop, you're pissed
Yeah,
off
I
at your
think-
neighbor
yeah,
and you
I
run to the
think
gun
that-
store and get it right then and there and you pop them.
yeah, but how many times does that happen?
I don't know. We don't know.
Apparently it happens enough that they want to legislate it.
I mean, personally, if I decide I was going to do something, I'm not going to change my mind and be like, oh well, I'm just not going to go and kill people because I had 3 days to.
Like you
sit
like
around.
like you get 3 days to have a Snicker, like 3 days to have
Like,
Snickers
to
and think
me,
about
like,
it.
You have 3 days. You have 3 days to put together a good plan.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean-
I didn't even think about that. Now bingo. Now you got extra time to really come up with a good plan. Where you're gonna hide the body.
Okay.
You got time to get your latex gloves.
72 hours, you can come submit your plan and pick up your gun.
Yeah.
How could I make this even better so I get away with it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, let's say there was a certain number that maybe it does help or affect certain things. Does that outweigh, though, the people that maybe, like, okay, so you stopped one person from going out and doing something bad they might have done anyways, but you hindered this person that, wasn't able to protect themselves, and it's their right as being a free person, to defend themselves. Personally, I don't think you should have to go through nowhere near as much stuff as you do, but we're playing games where, oh well, we stopped this one person from being killed because this person was mad, but this person died because they couldn't protect themselves. So I feel like it's kind of like a arbitrary point where it's a feel good thing, like, well, we saved this person, we'll focus on that, but we won't focus on the people that couldn't have it because of our law.
Well.
So, I mean, you could go back and forth on both sides all day, and, I don't know, I just feel like it's one of those things just to fuck with you, but.
Well, I don't have any stats in front of me, but I could be damn sure that there's more people killed in this country by illegal guns
Oh, no
than by
doubt.
legal guns.
No doubt about it. I'm
I
sure.
mean,
Most likely.
Someone wants
I
to pull
mean,
it up.
You've
My
got
phone's.
a vast
There's
majority
a
of your
TikTok
legal
account.
gun
If you want.
owners, who those
Look at
guns
you.
are sitting in gun cabinets in their home, and they hunt, and they may go out target shooting, and they teach their family, younger generations, how to use a gun, how to properly use a gun.
Find out how
Um,
many illegal guns are in America.
But, as far as, what's that percentage, I don't know, but I know it's gotta be skyrocketing as far as the illegal guns that are going into major crime areas in your cities. And, you know what, I don't think that all the gun owners across this country need to be penalized for,
150 million of it?
yeah,
I'm sure at
for
least,
for illegal guns that are going into, getting into criminals' hands in the bigger cities and stuff. There has to be some type of legislation, tougher laws that go into effect as far as when they catch these criminals with illegal guns and what happens. Or do we slap them on the wrist, they're out on the street, and the next day they've got a new allotment of guns to go out and start shooting
Oh
with?
yeah, and that's what Kim Fox. You see how many people that they arrest, and I know some CPD officers that say like how directly she's been like impacting violence because they'll arrest someone for illegal guns or let's say some other kind of violent crime, and it's like boom, they're right back out on the street. They don't
Yeah.
get prosecuted, or they get the minimum punishment, and they're right back out, and it's the same people doing it over and over. But with certain like these little kind of laws that they make to try and they say whatever save one life. But the thing is, how many laws can you make? This is where I stand on is yeah, we need a basis of laws, which we have way more than just like a standard basis of laws. But it's like everyone wants to keep adding new gun laws, and at what point does it work? I mean, how many?
Right?
You can't legislate yourself out of this problem. We have to look at what's making people act like this, how we could stop it, and how we can keep good people able to protect themselves. Because just putting a law in place or putting a sign up, like, it doesn't stop criminals. They're not going to the store and buying their gun legally. They're not going to go, oh well, murder's against the law. Well, I don't care about that one, but there's this arbitrary gun law on the books, so I guess I won't shoot this person. You know what I mean? Like, if you're willing to commit murder, one of the worst crimes you can commit, why would you stop because of a gun? So unless
if there had just
unless
been a
it direct-
gun-free
like-
zone sign in Las Vegas, Stephen Paddock wouldn't have shot anybody.
So, and
You wouldn't
unless
shot
you could
anybody.
stop these people from obtaining them completely without hindering good people, it's just there's no way.
So are you trying to say that criminals don't obey the law?
Exactly.
That's some bullshit right there.
All that
So-
mumbo jumbo I'm running with.
So
That's-
do you
that's
guys
exactly
know
it.
why the Second Amendment was written?
Well, it's written.
And you
To
know,
kill the goddamn redcoats.
It-
No,
it wasn't-
probably
it
to
wasn't-
prevent anybody from being able to.
against a tyrannical government. To be
Well,
able
that, but
to
Right.
stand up for your.
yes,
Right.
that's what I was.
to be
it
able to
actually
not
says
not
that in
only
there.
to stand up against a tyrannical government,
but so that
to,
nobody can invade
in
us
support
as well.
of our government against another
Yeah.
government. Because back in the late 1700s, I think the Second Amendment was 1791, and it was part of the Bill of Rights, and it was basically so that civilians had the right to bear arms to prevent being overrun by a tyrannical government or a foreign government coming, because our federal government really did not have a federal army.
Yeah.
Back then, they were state militias. So a
Prior to
state
the
mi-
Constitution, when we were
a
under
state-
the Articles, right?
Yeah, but a state no, there wasn't a federal army and navy and everything in the late 1700s. I mean, this country was just beginning.
Right.
They didn't have,
I-
what was it, 13, the 13 original states?
Yes.
I mean, my history's not that good anymore.
You're doing all right.
Anyway, so
I
of
think.
those, at least the way I read it, there was no federal army, or at least there wasn't a federal army that could by itself go up against England or France or Spain or whatever back then. So it was counted on of the civilians
civilians.
of the states to be a state militia to support the federal government, so that therefore it protects you from our government trying to take our guns, because somewhere down the road, who's to know that our government doesn't turn against the people, and the people, even though in today's modern warfare, I don't think civilians with our 12 gauges stand a chance against the United States Army and everything, but back in the day when this was written, that's primarily what it was for.
But and largely, and then after, once the United States developed the greatest military on earth, we've never had any other countries invade and fight on our land, because if they get past our military, well, then you got another 150 pissed off Americans
And-
loaded with guns, the secondary backup military.
And that's
And good
really,
luck.
I mean,
and that's why we've never had forces on our own land. They
And,
do the little sneak attacks,
Yeah.
and that's it. That's
and
all
when
they
you
can do.
think about it, I mean, just think if there was a movie, I think back in the 80s, about some kind of an invasion in through California, and some some-
Red Dawn. Red
some
Dawn. Red
teenagers
Dawn.
repelled the Russian
remained
army or
there.
something.
Red Dawn.
I don't know what it was.
North Korea.
But
Red Dawn.
nonetheless, it's still, yes, if something like that were to ever happen and our government forces could not prevent them, then I think that, yeah, it would be expected as American citizens to pick off as many of them as we can with our 12 gauges and our 30-30s. I mean, we would become a civilian militia representing our state and our country and fighting. So that's why it was written, to be able to protect people, to own the guns, and that no government could ever take those guns away. But there's a whole lot of legalities about, can states mandate this and mandate that, you know? So some of your states see it as, man, this is a holy amendment right here, and this is the way it is, and you know, they can walk around with guns and stuff, and they probably have far less crime than places like the city of Chicago, where they don't allow you to have a gun, yet everybody who shouldn't have one has
Yeah.
three.
And it's as violent as Afghanistan in the height of the
Sure,
war, I believe,
right.
By death count.
Yeah, I mean, hell,
Maybe equivalent.
Yeah.
we could take a trip over to Afghanistan and go walking through the street, and it might be safer than some places of walking down the street in Chicago. And that's sad to say. That's sad to say. And that's a whole different reasoning for why it is that, but I mean, it's just, it's a sad fact. I don't even know if it's walking down the street anymore. I think now if you're driving on the expressway, you better
Yeah,
watch
you're
out.
getting shot at Dan Ryan or some shit.
Sure.
But
Sure.
It's
I mean,
cyber killings, you know. Hey, we don't need to go up to the house. We'll just drive down the road and pop them off on the expressway.
Right.
no, I think that was a pretty good explanation of. I mean, I don't think I could have said it much better.
Dad killing it.
Yeah,
Killing it.
yeah, Mr. Huff killing it. You know, I mean, to me, it's an inherent right that is just as important as any other right, and it's kind of funny. We see the Second Amendment kind of it's become like a second class right. You know, like everyone. Well, now we're kind of starting to see the first one is starting to go too with the text censorship and
Yep.
you know the cancel culture. You can't say shit, which we've talked about a lot, but you know, I just never seen anything a right treated as badly as the Second Amendment.
Just gets
You know,
stepped on
And,
over
and
and
people
over
always
and
talk
over
about, oh, well, there's all these restrictions, you know, on driving and all this stuff. Which driving, you know, I mean, we start getting into like privileges and like, you know,
Driving wasn't
Stuff
put
like
into
that.
driving wasn't
I mean-
put into the Constitution
I mean,
when the country was.
I don't know. I don't put that on the same level as, to me, one of the single most important rights that a person could have, even without government, without anything. Just think of, cavemen or, whatever. The right to defend yourself and, your family and your property. To me, that's the most fundamental right that you can have at the end of, since the beginning of time. That's why government was even, created in the first place, was to form together some kind of a civilization to protect each other and, not let chaos ensue. And I think, we're getting away from, our roots that, hey, everyone has the right to defend themselves at the end of the day. You can put whatever kind of bullshit you want, about what could happen if someone did this or did that, but at the end of the day, who is someone to tell you can't defend your family with the best means necessary, right?
Look at that couple. They were both lawyers in St. Louis.
We talked about the
McCloskey's, right? Or McCluskey?
McClaskey's?
something like
Yeah.
that.
So,
Yeah, we talked.
I mean,
about
the last I heard,
they're charged.
they had been charged, and charged with what? I'm not really quite sure. I mean, Missouri is fairly, I think, a pretty liberal state when it comes to gun ownership.
No. Missouri?
Missouri, yeah. I mean, Missouri, you can walk in and buy a gun
Yeah,
and walk out.
that wouldn't be a very.
Well, he means they're open.
Right.
They're
I know
open.
what you're
I
saying.
mean, they're
just think
Like
of the
liberal
wrong
to
word.
not liberal in the sense of like their
Oh,
politics.
free
No,
flowing.
I'm not.
Free
I'm not.
flowing,
No,
okay.
I'm not talking.
You mean like a
political
flow, free
liberals.
flowing? Got it.
No,
okay.
yes. It's just they are much more.
When he hears liberal, he's
They are
Right.
open
No,
to
I
the
would-
Second
I knew
Amendment.
what he was
and
saying.
You can go to a gun store and you can buy a gun and you can buy ammo and you can walk out of there.
They're pretty pro gun. Pro
yeah, it's a pretty red state. It's a red
Yes.
state.
Yes.
It's a red state.
But there's so much political pressure from the left to charge this couple that is merely out in front of their house trying to protect their house against any of these people that are out there rioting, destroying people's property.
An angry mob.
Yes, an angry mob that's destroying people's
That
property
broke
at
into
will.
their gated community.
That broke into their gated community. They were not welcome there. It was a private community, and yet you have to fear that they're going to cause destruction. Hell yeah, I'd be out there with a gun too. Don't come on my property and don't think you're going to break out my windows.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then to get charged for that, I'm positive that it's not the AG in the city of St. Louis. It's outside forces that are trying to push for charges against them.
Oh,
I think they're.
And that's where they want to
I think they're
politicize
gonna. I think it's
everything.
going to be dismissed. I don't think.
Oh, I think it
I
will
don't think
too.
anything's really going to.
I don't see how
other than
anything
just a
could
whole lot
come
of
of it.
headaches for them.
Because
Because what it is,
dangerous.
they've become unfortunately a part of the whole narrative, whether
Yeah,
they
it's-
wanted to or not, because it's a very colorful picture of them. They look kind of goofy. The wife can't hold the gun.
Sure, I
They're
absolutely
perfect
believe
for
they
the
had
media
no
to tear
idea.
apart.
They had
They're
no
perfect.
idea what they were
They're
doing
perfect.
out there with those guns. I mean, there's no question about that. But
They're kind of cartoonish.
I feel like
looking.
But they had, as far as I'm concerned, they had every right to stand their ground.
Sure. They didn't
on
threaten.
the property.
As far as I know, they
with the
didn't
gun.
threaten to shoot anybody, right?
No.
They didn't say, "I'm going to shoot you."
No,
they
they
just
just
kind
stood
of
with the
stood
gun.
there.
They just brandished it. That's
Just
all
kinda
it
brandished
was,
it, yeah.
you know.
show it.
Get the fuck
That's-
out.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
Fuck
Better
around,
not-
find out.
Yeah, better not come any closer. And I think it's just it's totally a political,
Stunt.
stunt. It is, and they're two very inexperienced people. They're not even necessarily pro-gun people from the backstory that I've,
Just
read.
people who said, "Let's get a
But,
gun just in
Hey,
case."
you know what? They had it, but it's the perfect way for anti-gun people to say, "Oh, look at they could pick apart these two people." And you don't have to be an expert to defend yourself, but they'll use it as like, "Oh, yeah, like look how they're doing this," or they're goofy. They have no business owning guns, or it's just they'll take any spin on it that they want, and just any way to like, well, if they have no experience, and what if this happened? What if that? they're playing into hypotheticals and feelings. Oh, these, they try and make this angry mob seem like they're these nice, people. These nice people who are just protesting outside their house, didn't deserve to have guns pointed at them, and they'll twist the narrative any way they possibly can, and that's all we're seeing, and that kind of goes back to trying to legislate, right? They're trying to legislate it out. So, we can't stop you. Maybe we can't take them away from you, but guess what? If you even think about using it, well, we might
Well,
just
you know,
we'll give you 10 years
life.
in prison for brandishing a firearm.
Just like if somebody breaks into your home, right? You walk downstairs and you see them. They start running out with your laptop, and they start kind of trying to exit out of your home, and they got your laptop, and you shoot them in the
I'm
back.
shooting them in the ass.
Well, if you shoot them in the back and you kill them, guess who's in trouble?
No, I'm
now?
shooting them in the
You're gonna
ass.
shoot them in the ass. Are you good enough target?
Because I don't want to let them
Good
go,
enough,
and I really
shot
don't.
me.
I really don't want to run out in the yard in my underwear and try to tackle them. So I'm shooting them in the ass.
You're gonna shoot them in the ass. Okay.
Yeah, and this is the scary thing is for anything, anything you try and do, it's always set up for us law-abiding people. We can't protect ourselves or our property, but they can do, criminals can do whatever they want, right? Because the laws don't apply to them.
Speaking of the law,
And then they're not held accountable. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like us law-abiding citizens, my concealed carry license expires December 14th. So legally I can carry for a couple more days, but then boom, December 15th, I'm an asshole. I can go to jail, prison. Like, I can get for the long dick of the law.
Well, here,
So-
this is what I was telling Rick earlier. I don't know if you were down here or not, or if you're in the bathroom, but if you got to put in your renewal and then screenshot it, look at the receipt, because I was telling him it said COVID-19 and my expiration, so I'm hoping now we gotta look into this. I mean, fuck it, I don't give a shit. I'm not gonna stop carrying my gun. I don't give a fuck whether they renew in time or not. But
He's a rebel.
it's something to look into. As far as I'll have to see, I think I have it on my phone. But when you renew it, make sure that you look, and I think it says that I take that as they're extending it, like they have with like everything else. But
They extended the real ID, so hopefully they
so
extend
I'm hoping that's
I
what
forgot
that
all
means.
about
But
that.
till next year.
I mean, it would
October.
surprise me if they just
Well,
concealed carry's not too important.
they've
We'll fuck you
extended.
over.
They've extended everything from driver's licenses to auto licenses. All that
License
stuff has
plate
been
stickers,
extended. Yeah, it's
so-
all been
Except
extended.
your
They
mortgage.
should. Yeah.
And rent, yeah. Unless
But
you get some
you'll find out the one thing they didn't extend was the concealed weapon thing. Oh no, we're not letting you. We're not extending that one. You're going to jail.
Yeah, it's. Then another thing, one again to, man, I wish I would have brought it, but I know, in general, I don't know the exact statistic, but like, so if we want to talk about like AR-15s,
Let's
and
talk.
how they want to, right? It's like this big deal that these need to be banned, and they're so much worse than anything else. But if we get back to, it's like almost like 1%. Not even just AR-15s. I think it's rifles in general, long guns in general. It's like 1% of all like crime, like killings, are by rifle. Almost, it's 99% is all handgun, mostly gang violence, and you see you never see them go, oh, we need to get rid of handguns. They might try and limit capacity and stuff on magazines, but what's responsible for killing the most people, you don't hear about, but you hear about the 1% for this rifle that is involved in, because it's using high profile stuff, right? So they're not using the streets. Unfortunately, they're using them in mass shootings. But I feel like this goes back kind of like the way the media portrays stuff. They make it sound like this is an everyday occurrence where there's just our main problem is these high profile mass killings with this particular rifle, and it's not. It's a small percentage. The majority of our issue is gang members that are shooting each other, you know, in these, and mostly liberal-run cities like Chicago, New York, LA. You know, that's where the high majority of our gun violence is, and banning AR-15s is not going to stop that. And I don't think banning AR-15s would even stop school shootings. They'll just, you know, figure out a different, you know, whether it's a handgun or a shotgun or, you know. So my thing is, you know, where does it stop?
Well, they're all illegal in Chicago right now anyway, so it really it doesn't make a damn bit of difference. There's more of them in Chicago since it became illegal than there was when it was legal, so.
I spilled on your stuff.
That's fine. That's fine. We'll get it. We'll clean it. In
Spilling beer over here.
We'll clean it in February or so.
But let's go back to 1791 when they wrote this great Second Amendment
Beautiful. Beautiful.
about
amendment.
us having,
The best.
being able to
Beautiful
have
amendment.
guns.
Everyone likes it.
Back in those days, what were they shooting? Powder?
Muskets.
powder?
Muskets. Yeah.
Okay.
Loaded after every shot.
So you would have to have the assumption that as the world modernizes, so do the weapons that people are using for protection.
The way they wrote it, they clearly knew that things were going to evolve
Sure,
over time.
right.
They clearly were aware of that. So,
But
having that in mind, they knew guns would. They had to have known guns would get
Oh, yeah.
better,
I-
more powerful, quicker, everything.
I don't know the
They had
wordage.
to.
Maybe one of you guys want to Google it or something.
Evan.
But in the Second Amendment, it basically says weapons is
Yeah,
the
to
way
bear
I think I
arms.
read it.
Bear arms.
So right to
It
bear
doesn't say
arms
guns,
and
it doesn't say a
something-
specific kind. Just
Weapons.
arms.
So yeah, it doesn't necessarily say that you're only allowed to use black powder muskets. I mean, you're
It's not
allowed to
specific.
use. It is.
It's
It's
broad,
non-specific. It's very broad as far as
It's meant
the
to be
weapons
timeless.
that civilians can use for themselves. And when they were writing this, they were smart enough to know that the world is going to evolve, and therefore the weapons are going to evolve. And just like Matt said, you know, AR-15s are not the reason people are getting shot and killed out there on the streets right now. It's really not. It's handguns. It's illegal handguns.
To the AR-15, let me ask you a question. Let's see what everybody thinks. Is it agreed that civilians should not be allowed to own rocket launchers, grenade launchers, army
I
tanks?
guess it could. Yeah, I don't. You know, I mean, it depends on how you look at it.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I would
There's a
say-
lot of people that probably shouldn't be able to own
Yeah,
army
there's,
tanks
like,
and rocket
there's
launchers.
definitely gotta be
I would
limitations.
also say that that's not like the main. Let's say the main, you know, military rifle or side, you know, or like weaponry. You know.
I think that some of those could go more as weapons of mass destruction.
Sure,
I mean,
okay,
no,
that's
we're
good.
not talking.
Talking like
We're
not
not
talking
talking
nuclear
nuclear
bombs.
mass.
So that's what I
but
want.
we are talking about
that's-
mass
so is
destruction.
that where you're like so? Yeah, like maybe someone should fucking have like.
That's
some
what I
kind of
want to
crazy
get at.
bomb or
That's kind of what I
fucking
want to
bomb.
get at because there's a
I
lot.
didn't know what like
There's a
where
lot
you're
of
going with the
people.
question.
There's a lot of people. One of the arguments is that civilians should not be allowed to own AR-15s because it is a military-style weapon. And to those people that make that argument, it would kind of fall under that sort of weapon of mass
Well,
destruction kind of category.
Kinda,
Let
yes.
me finish. So, the question is, should we be allowed to buy? I think we should. And the reason that I think we should be allowed to own them is because we already had them and now they're trying to take them away. Had from day one we never been allowed to own them and they would have fallen under the same category as an army tank, a rocket launcher, a grenade launcher, I probably wouldn't be so passionate about it.
Yeah.
But the fact that we were allowed to purchase them and now millions of people have them and they want to take those away from you and limit your right to ever buy them in the future, that's the problem. That's what doesn't sit well with me. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. Well, I think it goes back to like
Whatever,
what your
everything I
dad's
said, I'm not an
explanation.
anti
No,
I-
15.
I mean,
I think it.
I think you were kind of thinking
What?
No, I wasn't sure like.
where I was going. with
Yeah,
it.
I didn't know you're trying to like what you meant.
What's the difference of the guy that walks in with an AR-15 into the mall and he shoots 45 shots and kills 3 people, or the guy that walked in with the 45 pistol and shoots 3 shots and kills 3 people.
Yeah. they're
What's
all the same.
really the difference? I mean, it's the AR-15. Yeah, it is a military style weapon, and it will, with someone who is, I would say, very experienced with it, probably
That's fair,
will
yeah,
kill
yeah.
more people with that if they're determined, if that's what they're determined to do. But you know what? If they're that determined to do it, they're going to find they're going to find a way. These terrorist type people, they find a way to get done what they want to get done. So
Pressure cooker bombs.
it's
I think it kind of goes back to what you're saying, Rick, with the way it reads is, I mean, the Second Amendment was meant for what was common. And this has been backed up in Supreme Court cases like Heller and, I think, is it fucking Heller? Yeah, I think, where, they've decided that that the Second Amendment supports people owning and carrying firearms that are common. Like, there's a certain amount of, like, characteristics that they described. It had to be, like, something that, was, one of them was being a common firearm, a firearm of, like, this country, like, the people. Like, what is a popular, obviously, handgun would be covered. An AR-15 is one of the most popular, rifles, defense rifle, sporting rifle. They're using it to hunt wild hogs. In Texas, that's huge. But I think it goes back to the Second Amendment. They were talking about what the military was using at that time. And the main, they were using muskets. But that goes into, over time, what is, the AR-15 is our common, well now, I mean, there's a military version, because really the AR-15 is a civilian version of,
The
whether you're going to say like an
M60.
M4, M16.
M16, A4.
So the AR-15 was actually developed for the civilian market specifically, but it's our common gun of our time, and I believe how he explained it, it transfers over with. You're looking at black powder and muskets, where the sidearms
It's essentially
are the rifles of that
grandfathered.
time.
It's grandfathered into the doctrine.
these
This is kind of what
These
you're
are
saying.
our muskets.
It's
right?
the
Yes,
it's
yes.
the evolution of
Yes.
the militia. Okay, so back in the 1700s, the militia was black powder and buck knives. Okay, well now that has evolved into rapid fire machine guns and stuff like that. So if the American people may be called upon at some time in our lifetime to defend American soil as a militia,
You
which
need at least something
you
decent.
never know.
Yeah,
Look at all these countries that their cities are being
Daddy, would you
invaded
like some
by
sausage?
foreign armies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Daddy, would you like some sausage?
So you should
But-
put some of that in that sauce.
So, in that respect, should the American militia be sitting here with black powder muskets?
Yeah, right.
and the North Koreans are invading, and we're the only way to defend ourselves is a black powder musket, because that's really all the Second Amendment called for. No,
Can you stop
I think
shooting?
it's-
I have to refill my musket.
and I'm not saying that everybody in the country should run out and get AR-15s to protect ourselves against foreign invaders, but I think that in that respect, if ever called upon to be in a state militia, that people being prepared for that, and we all know that there are groups of people out there that are prepared for that.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, they're radical groups. A lot of them are radical groups, but there are radical militia out there that are sure that we're going to be invaded or we're going to be taken over by our own government, and they're going to protect us. And I'll bet you every one of them has a rapid fire machine gun.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. Certainly.
You
Well, no, I was just looking up
I feel like I
the-
keep
No,
every
no,
time
don't
I
worry,
was-
that-
Yeah,
that-
Evan, you can all
that's
stay
great
quiet
points.
over there, buddy.
Well, because I'm looking up the Constitution and Second Amendment, the
Goddamn
actual, the
Constitution.
exact words and bad signal down here, but.
You talking shit about my house?
No, I got T-Mobile. I'm talking shit about them.
I also like to say how I view the definition. Bear means on you, and
Yes.
arms means
Yes.
you know
Yeah.
weapons, military
Right to
style
carry on you at all
rifles
times.
or
Arms
whatever
are
that be.
arms are weapons.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they are. They are, and we have that right to bear, own, have upon us those
And
arms.
I also think there's a lot of people have an expectation that, and it's kind of portrayed as that like my AR-15 is, I mean, it's semi-automatic. So AR-15s on the market, the civilian versions, you're only it's same as if like my handgun that I carry. So you're going one trigger pull, one bullet comes out. One trigger pull, one bullet. Now you can, in certain states, filing for ATF paperwork and going tax stamps, you can get machine guns in this country, but it's super expensive. You're talking like you're talking about probably $20,000-$30,000 to
Well,
buy a fully automatic machine
like
gun now.
for-
It wasn't
all
so
the
long
loopholes?
ago
Yeah.
you could get that.
Yeah,
though.
you could, yeah.
You could get
At one
that in
time
other
it was
states.
legal where you could
Right.
just without, all this, but now it's pretty regulated where, it's even like you want to get a suppressor, like you can get a suppressor in a lot of states, but you got to pay it, a couple grand to get the tax stamp, or whatever, and they're super expensive. But I think a common misconception about the standard AR-15 that the majority of us people own, they claim like
Is
it's
that
a
it's fully automatic?
yeah, and it's not.
Oh.
And so it's really, they try and make it seem like it's a whole lot different than,
It's not going to fire any faster than
Yeah.
my 9mm.
Exactly. So it's based on the skill and the competency of the person, but they're easy. Obviously, I mean, any rifle's easier to shoot and more accurate as long as it's not fully automatic. It's gonna change your accuracy, but if it's semi-automatic, think about it. You're instead of holding a pistol, you have a buttstock, cheek weld, up against your cheek, in your shoulder, and your other arm. So like any rifle, you're gonna be able to shoot people better. I mean that's that's common sense.
I am
Good.
much better with a rifle than I am a pistol.
Yeah.
I am not good with a pistol.
I'm pretty
at all.
good with the pistol. I'm way better with the pistol.
Are you really?
Because it's so much lighter. It's so much easier for me.
You're literally a trained
Killer.
killer.
I just feel like
Evan,
with,
United States Marine.
Yeah.
I'm more than competent enough to hit a large thing,
Yeah.
hopefully not a body, that's out in front of me, which would typically, let's just say, house is being broke into, okay, 10, 15 feet away from me, maybe. I'm more than competent to do that, but if you put a beer can on the, something, and I shoot at the beer can, and I'm trying to hit the center of the beer can, if I'm lucky enough to catch the side of it or whatever, for me, that's good.
Yeah.
With a rifle at 10 times the distance, I can probably put it right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But it's like that closeness versus the shortness of the barrel and everything. I'm not dead on. I'm
Yeah.
not one of these guys you see on TV that's boom. I'm not a dead on shot with those with a pistol, but and I'm not even a dead on shot with a rifle either. But give me time. And I'm there and calm, I can
Yeah.
fire off a pretty good shot.
But I think it just is part of the misconception about like these AR-15s are super killing machines. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Pull the trigger.
yeah, you gotta make a decision to
Yeah.
shoot someone. But just be like, oh, we shouldn't have them because they're that much better at killing people. To me, no, they're that much better at me protecting myself from, multiple attackers, angry mob outside my
Peaceful
gated-
protests.
Yeah, peaceful protests. Right?
Air quotes.
You know,
And there's a whole nother factor that goes into this, just the way our world is today. And I say world because I don't think it's just the United States. I think it's the world abroad where it's like people have lost patience with other people nowadays. It's like, whether it's road rage or what it is, there are things people just don't. You don't have the niceties that you had back in the '60s and '70s, and things started to become a little more independent in the '80s and '90s, and now it's like everybody is independent of everything, and
I'll just take it.
you want to have a rule for every little minority group along the way. Well, you can't do this, you can't do that, and people are frustrated and tired and impatient and angry, and so that it's mentally, I think, is an issue across the world where there's more shootings simply because there's more disparaging things going on to people that maybe aren't getting the help that they need for things.
So you're saying that we have more of a mental illness problem than a gun problem?
Well, I'm not sure. I would say that there is definitely a mental illness problem. I don't think that that's a huge percentage, but I think that is definitely a part of the percentage growth in people that are being shot is by the mentally ill, that due to the mass population and budget cuts and basically not understanding how some of these people are getting to that point of being a mental illness where they're unstable and for some reason they want to shoot somebody or something, but I mean, the biggest factor is got to be the inner cities and the illegal guns being sold in the inner cities. And so it's all of the trafficking of the guns and the distribution of the guns, and I think law enforcement needs to do, I think there's so much room for improvement for trying to track down and stop. These guns are coming in semis. They're not sneaking in, the size of a mousetrap into the city. They're coming in friggin' semis, loaded full of illegal guns. So I just think there has to be a more concerted effort between the federal government and the state government and the local governments to crack down and keep these guns from coming into the city.
What if CIA, FBI, ATF?
Oh.
Right on it. I was just gonna say it.
Conspiracy
I'm glad you
Should-
brought
well,
that
sure.
up.
Should we
Some
take
of
a little
that-
break?
Some of that, they may be bringing it, this truckload's brought in by the CIA, and this truckload's
We're not
coming
exactly
in.
on this.
Why don't we take a quick little break? I think
Okay.
we're gonna take a quick little break, and we're gonna jump right into that. That's a fun one.
Okay.
Oh, I get
All right.
that.
Let's do it.
That remind me of.
Because dude, it's
Well,
gotta be.
it
How
was-
do you
it was
let
under,
all this come
It was
in?
under Eric Holder.
This is not even conspiracy. This is fact. That the
Tell-
ATF,
make sure we're gonna repeat it.
the ATF gave illegal guns
Press
to
the
the
button,
cartel, Mexican cartel, as like a